Hi, good afternoon. This is our presentation on our senior design project. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to a PowerPoint where we're going to kind of break down the aspects of the project, the objectives, and then we're also going to show the end result of our projects. So this is our project on decreasing turnover rate at Daiwa Massage Chairs by Ulyss Jacqueline. My name is Elizabeth Kimber.
My name is Alvin Scaria.
And my name is David Lopez, and fortunately my camera is not working at this moment.
So Daiwa Massage Chairs was a wholesaling company that was opened back in 1982. So they've been running for about 40 years now. And they initially started, like I said, as a wholesale company that sold small items and just various things like health and wellness products before that. And then over the years, they've expanded a whole lot and they started producing and selling massage chairs and being a leading manufacturer and distributor of massage chairs, which means that they have advanced significantly over the years with their economics as well as with their employee base.
So the biggest problem we were trying to tackle with this project was dealing with the low employee productivity and retention rate the company was experiencing due to the lack of training and support the employees got. And this has many negative consequences on an organization by, first of all, decreasing their market competitiveness and also making it very difficult to meet customer expectations. And we understood as a group that improving this issue would help the company culture by enhancing the employee engagement as well as making it beneficial for their long-term strategy.
And piggybacking off of that, when we went into this project, we initially didn't know exactly what we would be doing. We were addressed with the project that they had a high turnover rate, low employee retention, and they were just struggling to keep customer satisfaction levels up. And then as we went throughout the project, we discovered it was due to lack of training and support, and we'll kind of get into some of the ways that we discovered that and how we addressed it throughout the project.
So our primary objective for this project was to essentially research, design, and implement a new training program for the warehouse staff at the company. And we did this through incorporating numerous different resources such as safety training, SOPs, training videos and quizzes, mistake proofing checklists, feedback forms, and as well as instruction manuals. And implementing these types of resources into the company structure would drastically improve the employee productivity and decrease the turnover that they were experiencing.
So this was our data that we collected. So after the interviewing process of the employees, we began to input these data into checklists. And so in the image, you see a check sheet of problems that were most common amongst the employees. So for a quick example, the issue that had the most counts was a driver would forget an item. These items were anything small from like a small free item from the company or all the way to a full actual massage chair. And in forgetting these items, it would often result in rescheduling, even cancellations, which is not good for the company or the customer. Another example would be vehicle broke down due to lack of maintenance. So maybe these drivers forgot to maintain the vehicle within that week. So in order to do that, we would later analyze that using other statistical tools.
So these were a couple of the interview questions that we asked the current employees at the company to kind of just assess the situation and see how they were feeling. We asked simple questions such as, how do you feel about your workload lately? Have you been able to meet your goals and targets effectively? And are there any safety concerns that you would like to address? And asking these type of questions kind of just gave us an idea of the current situation of the company and what we need to focus on and what we need to improve.
And then on top of that, we also use these questions throughout the entire process, and we would do check-ins throughout to monitor the system. And so at the very beginning, that's how we discovered that there was such little training at the company. And then as we went on, we used it to refine and kind of analyze our manual, and then also just improve it as we went. And then currently, we have it set to where the company will do 3-month check-ins with new hires and kind of get more feedback on what we created and how we can improve it in the future.
So this is one of the tools that we used to analyze the issues with the employees. And this is a Pareto chart, which basically helps us focus on the main problems that are causing um, most of the issues. So as you can see from the last data collection, the bar with the most frequency counts is often a driver forget an item, followed by injuries within the warehouse. Sometimes the massage chairs would be damaged in the trucks, or something else as like the delivery driver drove to the wrong location, and again also caused delays in rescheduling in delivering process. So after analyzing, we figured out why all these issues were still occurring. So we began to create some solutions and bottom up to the admin team. So these were 6 solutions that we came up with. The first solution was creating a training and development plan that utilizes visual, auditory, and on the job training techniques to enhance the skills of the employees. Another solution would be to create checklists to monitor deliveries, vehicles, shows, uniforms, and more. The third solution would include maintaining documentation of certain lists that the employees need, having weekly checklists filled out and submitted to management. This also include developing SOPs or standard operating procedures for various employees. The fourth solution is a greater focus on safety equipment, giving out proper protective equipment to the employees. The fifth solution would include implementation and research of Department of Transportation, DOT. And the last solution is optimizing the company equipment and using the technology that we have at our disposal.
So one of the things that we did look into throughout this was a little bit of the cost saving aspect. So there were a lot more things involved in the actual costs, such as actually like all these costs that they were experiencing for getting these items or having to ship things out. But the main thing that came from it and the main things that the company were concerned about were the cost of the turnover specifically, and then also they were at a huge risk for DOT. And with DOT, the company, for people that don't know, DOT, anything outside of a certain mile radius, they could inflict a fine or even remove the Department of Transportation status that the company may have to travel across state lines. And so anything outside of a certain radius, they would have to follow certain regulations in terms of logbooks, what their employees do, what they carry, weigh stations, stuff like that. And the company has already faced 2 federal audits, and they're already facing the removal of their DOT status as well as a huge fine amount. And at the time that we spoke to the company, we were told that they were told $2,000 right then and there, but they were also told that it can range anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 for the initial fine. Now, on top of that, the company relies solely on the transportation aspect to deliver their massage chairs. And so without the ability to transport these massage chairs or utilize their warehouse staff to drive across state lines, they're forced to utilize a third-party system to deliver their chairs. And with that, for each chair, since they are about 500-pound chairs, it would cost anywhere from like $1,000 to $3,000 per chair to deliver. And so this came out to about an average delivery per week for the whole company of being about 200 chairs. And when calculated with the average of the $2.5 thousand per chair, they're looking at about $500,000 in chair costs per week, plus the fine amount alone. Now, with the implementation of the manual, we included a lot of DOT aspects to teach the drivers how to use their logbooks, when they need to use and utilize some of those regulations, and how to deal with some of the safety issues that came about with it. And the goal with this was to decrease that risk of them losing their DOT status, and then also just to not have to use that third-party system. Now, not only that, after speaking with the company for a little bit, we discovered that a lot of the branches had a turnover time or turnover rate of about 4 weeks or so until the employee would leave the company. And in order to do the training process, since these chairs are so heavy and it's a safety aspect, they would need, instead of 2 people, they would need 3 people per delivery. And so they would have to pay 2 people per delivery to train these new employees for a week-long period. And with them leaving about every 4 weeks, they would have to repeat that process 12 times a year. Now, the average starting wage they would pay the new employee was about $20 an hour, which for a 40-hour training week would be about $800 for that week. And then for the seasoned training employee, or the trainer for the new trainee, they were paid about $22 an hour. And then we would need 2 employees to train them at 40 hours per week, which was about $1,760 per week. Now, that meant that each branch, just to maintain one stable employee's training, cost about $30,000 to $31,000 a year just for one employee. So our goal with the company, they expressed a goal of keeping warehouse employees for at least a year. It would decrease that cost to being about $2,560 to maintain training of one new employee for one branch instead. And so we're going to get a little bit into the actual manual structure and how we broke it down and address some of these concerns that the companies had. And so as you can see on this page, we have a table of contents. And so we started off with a lot of different modules, and the actual manual ended up being about 63 pages long. So we're not going to show the entire manual, but we are going to switch over to our example page, and we're going to demonstrate some of the pages that we had. But essentially, we broke it up into 6 different modules to address the main concerns and training aspects that the company wanted, with the first one being the brand philosophy and the history of the company, the second one being shift basics, such as how to clock in, uniforms, allowances, rewards, things like that. Number 3 being warehouse, with the biggest concern being the forklift training and safety. Number 4 being vehicle management with DOT, vehicle checklist, maintenance schedules, etc. Number 5 being shows and clubs. And number 6 being final assessments and actually monitoring the process. And so we structured it to follow on-the-job training, where the employee would be following the manual as the trainer showed them. And we also incorporated several tools and experiences that the trainee could go through just in case there wasn't a trainer available. And we will show several examples of this, because some of the issues they had were some of the training topics they weren't able to show until it physically showed up on the calendar or during the time. And so we're going to switch over to the training manual really quick over here. And like I said at the very beginning, it was about 63 pages, as you can see. It was pretty long. So we're not going to be able to go through the whole thing, but we are going to show some key pages and kind of how they related to our project and the industrial engineering side of it. So we're going to start with page 4 of the manual.
So this slide talks about, this is one of our mistake proofing slides, and it essentially just talks about all the documents and forms an employee has to have completed upon the onboarding process. So it includes several different things such as a background check, I-9 documents, the orientation, and just different like overviews of the company. And the employee goes through this with the trainer and checks it upon completion, just to make sure that they have all the necessary documents and knowledge that they need to continue on forward. And so the one, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just going off of that, with specifically with this, some of the issues that they were having was with the account creation. The management team or the admin team would forget to create these accounts for them. And so later on, when they were by themselves, they would be expected to know how to use these apps or systems, and they wouldn't know how to do it, or they wouldn't even have it in the first place. And it caused a whole lot of delays on deliveries. Like, for example, House Call Pro was a system they used to charge customers, and also as a communication tool, so the drivers wouldn't have to use their personal numbers to call customers. And so when they didn't have that account created at the very beginning, it would delay them later on in the future, and it would cause just issues with communicating. They would get calls from customers, employees would be very unhappy, and then also they wouldn't even be able to charge a lot of the customers in the first place. So doing this just made sure that they had those accounts created before they even got onto the job.
Mm-hmm. So the next one we're going to talk about is the 12 essentials of a professional, and this is one of our 5S/standardization slides, and this is essentially just a message from the CEO, and it touches on employee motivation and how an employee should act and hold themselves to. And it just talks about certain things such as continuously improve the way you work, and having clear images to take action, and plan first and finish quickly, and just little essentials and messages from the CEO on how to be an employee of the company. And this one is our monitoring the process slide. And essentially this slide just talks about it's check-ins with the trainer to make sure that they understand the info that they learned so far. And at the top of the page, you'll see a little mini quiz that they take with the trainer that they get graded on, so they can continue moving forward with the info. and to make sure the trainer and the employee understands the material that they are being presented with.
Okay. And then the next page we're going to look at is also the basic key comparison. And the one thing that these past three slides have, or past three pages of the manual have had in common is the fact that the CEO, when we were talking with him and some of the employee / customer needs, he addressed that he felt like a lot of employees were not retaining the emails he was sending out, and also that it was extremely difficult to convey customer needs to employees. And he wanted a way to visually show them, and as well as put it in a page where they could just reference it later. And that's where we came up with the 12 essentials, as well as the check-ins, and then the questions for the trainers after they finished the module. And the next one we created was the basic key comparison. And these were 6 main products that were sold currently. And the idea is that this will be updated in the future as the manual is updated each year. But a lot of times we found the trainers were not available to train the new employees at first because they were out busy doing deliveries, or they were out busy doing things that weren't necessarily safe for the new hires to join them on. And so they would end up stuck at the offices for a whole day, just pretty much sitting there doing nothing. And so we wanted to incorporate a way for them to reference some of these products, as well as get trained from their trainer on them without physically needing someone there. And so the idea behind this was that it would link to the specific pages on the website, and they would be able to review details. It's going to take a second to open on the side, but they would take the time to review a lot of these products, specifically warranties, different specs of the chairs, and they would just gather as much information as they could about the company, and then they would follow into a check for understanding right after, where they would touch on the key components of the entire module. And then some bonuses to throw in and keep it interesting. And then if they were able to pass the questions, the trainer would pass them. And if they failed, they would have to go back through and go through the module again. And this just made sure that they had an understanding of the philosophy, the history, and the basics that the CEO wanted the employees to know. And the next thing we're going to go into is going to be within the warehouse as well. And David, if you want to explain this one really quickly.
Okay, so in the warehouse module, we talk about how to maintain and manage the warehouse, which is very important as industrial engineers to optimize what's going on in the office. I mean, in the warehouse, sorry. So this page talks about warehouse management and the basic duties that a warehouse employee has to abide by when working. So there are 5 duties. So properly maintaining the forklifts, stocking up on empty pallets, maintaining proper housekeeping, staying updated and with the delivery schedules, and ensuring that all products and equipment is stored properly inside before leaving for the day. And this picture just shows an example of how the warehouse is supposed to look every day at the end of the shift. These are the 6 steps for warehouse managing. So receiving, putting away the products, storing the products, picking the products for orders, packing them, and then shipping. And it's just a continuous cycle. So for warehouse organization, the employees must learn all pallet rack locations and the corresponding inventory units. They also must ensure that the walkways are always clear for forklifts and pedestrian traffic. They should also check that all products are on the correct locations and observe any safety hazards and report them to their supervisors. This page also has an interaction, which is the Discuss It tab. And so what the trainee will do with the trainer is give 3 examples that are going on in this photo. And what this helps, it helps the trainer have an interaction with his trainer. The trainee, I'm sorry, have an interaction with the trainer while also pointing out mistakes that are in this photo.
And piggybacking off of that, we do want to point out the fact that the idea behind this manual structure is that they are following along on tablets. And so these are pages that they would go through with the trainer. And so when they get to this point, they're just now walking into the warehouse. So they're getting a base understanding before they actually physically move to the warehouse and performing a lot of these tasks. And so going into that, the next pages that we're going to look into deal with the forklift.
So this is a forklift checklist, which is a mistake-proof technique that we included in our training manual. And what this does is It helps the drivers of forklifts avoid from any errors that can cause damage to the forklift. So every day before the operator drives the forklift, he or she will have to check this off and check for every little detail. So that way we have longevity with equipment and there's no big issues that occur with the forklifts. This page talks about the forklift water. And what this page has is an interaction video. So it's a YouTube video when you click the link. And as mentioned before, they'll be using tablets. They'll watch this 10-minute video that explains very important information for electronic forklifts and other types of forklifts that use propane tanks. After watching the video, the trainee and the trainer will discuss and have a checkup for understanding. And this will be graded by the trainer. And there's also a score on the bottom to ensure that they are passing or failing. And if they fail, they're going to have to rewatch the video to make sure that they are having the best training they need to succeed on the job.
Okay. And then the next page, because one of the main things that the company did discuss with us was that they were struggling with their forklift operations. They didn't feel as though employees had enough training, and they also were noticing a lot of dangerous situations with it, specifically with safety and those 5S topics. And so as you can see, there were a lot of topics in the manual about forklifts specifically, and we wanted to include as much visual aid as we possibly could while also establishing those procedures, because some of the other issues that the company discussed was that employees kind of felt they could create their own rules, or when they would get reprimanded for something, they would fight back against the company and they would say, well, I was never trained on that, or they would say, you never taught me that, you can't get me in trouble for it, essentially. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that they were actively getting trained on these things, and then that way it would influence their coaching abilities in the future. So when an employee did turn around and say, I was never trained on this, they're able to reference the manual, reference the proof that they were trained, and coach them better in the future. And also this prevents employees from, number one, walking all over the company. It provides a better structure. And number two, it just provides a better reporting system and monitoring process for the company to make sure that their employees are actually retaining this information and reflecting that to their customers. And so with the forklifts, they wanted to establish, number one, the forklift water, because they were getting cost of about $5,000 every single time the battery would fail, because they would fail to fill it with water. They were also experiencing issues where people were getting injured with it. They would forget, as you could see in this photo right here, people would be unmanned, but the forklift would be left unmanned. They would leave the forks up. They had instances where employees would walk by and actually cut their Achilles heel, which obviously means that they were unable to walk after that point. And so they had a lot of safety issues, a lot of expensive equipment repairs, and a lot of even warehouse damages where the forklift would run into the wall or even poke through the boxes and the products. And so they really wanted to focus on these things. And so we formulated this manual to focus right here on the forklift operations, specifically with the basic forklift rules. They would go through with the trainer, learn these rules before they even touched the forklift. Then they would go through and prove that they could recognize safe practices. And so we included a little interactive quiz right here with real photos from their actual warehouse at the point. And we gave 3 little descriptions, and we asked them to discuss it with their trainer and explain what was good and what was bad about the photos. And in the next page, they would review their answers with their trainers. If they got it wrong, they would go back through those basic rules, as well as those videos that they watched before in the checklists, as well as any third-party like OSHA videos they may have watched, and they would review it again and come back to this point. And then on the job, right after that, they would perform an on-the-job check for understanding, where they would have to perform these 6 steps. So for example, they can safely return the forklift, they can conduct a pick up or drop in reverse, which was another issue that the company expressed, and the trainer would have to pass or fail them. And then we also threw in little fun facts throughout it, things that we couldn't include in the SOPs or we couldn't include the videos, that we wanted to really point out. Like, for example, the fact that the battery cost about $5,000 to repair was not a commonly known thing. And so including it and making it so bright, it helped stick in the trainee's mind. And then the last little pages that we're going to go through just involve the trade shows.
So this one talks about our trade show checklist, and this is also another mistake proofing checklist that we incorporated into the manual. So trade shows are essentially events that the company partakes in to display their products, and these are most of the time in different states, and they pay thousands of dollars to get in. And a common issue at the company was that employees were forgetting products that they were supposed to bring to the trade show, and it was causing a big issue. So what we did is we created a checklist so that each step of the process an employee could check off that they have all the necessary equipment and product that they need for the trade show. So for if you see there's a loader check, a sales rep check, and an unloader check, just so each part of the process there's someone checking to physically make sure that there's no equipment or merchandise that's missing, and that everyone has what they need to completely successfully do the trade show.
Yep. And then just going back off of that monitoring the process aspect, we wanted to include this specifically with having the different check initials to hold accountability to other employees. So that way, if it was forgotten in one step, the management team was able to directly approach the employee, ask what went wrong, and improve their process from there, and kind of figure out why it went wrong, what happened, and then formally approach the employee. And that's all the pages that we're going to show specific to the manual for now, because like we said, it is about a 63-page manual with a lot of topics and wording in it. But those were some of the key things that the company addressed with us that we wanted to talk about. And so now we're just going to go into some of the other things that we included with the training.
So SOPs are essentially clear instructions that are meant to decrease error and improve an employee's training and efficiency. And these are also very important because they make sure that information is preserved within the company, even when experienced employees switches roles or changes jobs. And we understood that having proper SOPs in place will assure that the organization continues to create quality products and have consistent operations. So we incorporated a bunch of different SOPs in the training manual just to make sure that there was enough information provided.
This is an example of an SOP for the forklift operator. And so what he or she will do will look at this SOP and follow it and make sure that they know what they're doing. And so the structure of this SOP is a hierarchical structure. And so basically what it has is the important details at the top within the first 5 points, and then all the way to the bottom. There's more pages to this SOP that were not included, but what this SOP will do is help the forklift operator understand their job much more better.
And so now I just want to talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges that we experienced throughout this project. So number one, when we went into this project, we didn't exactly know what we were tackling, and we didn't expect to discover that the company had virtually zero training in place. And so we thought we were addressing a simple turnover issue, but after root cause analysis and asking, just keep asking the 5 whys to different employees, management teams, and the HR admin team, we discovered that they didn't have any training in place, and we quickly shifted gears to kind of approach the problem by establishing that base training in the first place. We truly felt that establishing the training would help keep employee retention, it would keep that turnover rate low, and it would also motivate employees and help them feel a little bit more involved with the company as well as supported by the company. And we also thought it was a great monitoring system that we could provide easy feedback forms, surveys, and performance evaluations directly with the employees. And as it was new, and we did experience some setbacks with former employees or employees that have been with the company for a long time because they felt there was a lot of change coming to the company. But we were able to address this by talking to the employees and let them know we're not looking to change anything. We're just looking to structure it a little bit better and make things smoother and more streamlined. And we were able to work directly with them and get their feedback and let them feel a lot more included in the process. And so with that, when we first started attacking this project, we tried first to research a lot of this training in other massage chair companies. And we very quickly found that there are virtually zero benchmarking techniques specific to massage chair companies. There are a lot of other companies such as Osaki and Human Touch, but they don't publicly present a lot of their company information to the internet, or even just talking to them directly, as most of them are not public companies, they are private companies. So we didn't have a whole lot to go off to specific to massage chair companies. Now, with that being said, we were able to do research specific to training and development and how to kind of incorporate an effective training plan, but we weren't able to benchmark other companies. Not only this, one of the huge challenges that we experienced was the fact that there were 13 branches across the US, and none of them were anywhere near each other. So the only way we were able to communicate with these teams is through an online platform, through Zoom or Teams. And we had to check in virtually for everything. And so we struggled a little bit because we weren't sure if employees were telling us the truth a lot of the times, or if, they told us the whole story, because we had virtually no face-to-face interaction. And then lastly, like I mentioned before, this was a project that we were essentially pioneering from the beginning. So we didn't have anything to go off of. We kind of had to create it as we went and monitor the process as we went. And some of the tools that might have made it a little bit easier, such as a digital adoption platform, were too expensive for the company to take on. And so they weren't available for us to do. Now, with that being said, this was part one of a 3-year development plan. And so this was the baseline step for the first training manual that they're going to create. And eventually, over the next couple of years, their goal is to move public, expand their employee base, and help with that stable structure. And over those next 3 years, they want to do a lot of Kaizen events. They want to do continuous improvement, and they do want to expand to being a public company. But they did acknowledge the fact that they have to establish these base plans first.